The phone felt cold in my hand. I was staring at a stack of moving boxes in my tiny apartment, my whole life packed up, ready to start my new job. But I wasn't thinking about that. I was just frozen. I couldn't understand what my dad was saying. It felt like my ears were full of water, like I was drowning. "Dad, what? What did you just ask me?" I whispered. My voice was shaking. I must have heard him wrong. There was no way. No way he could ask me for that, especially not now. Not after what he did just 1 week ago. Just 7 days earlier, I was sitting in a giant stadium with 10,000 other students. My name is Mary Burnett, and that day was supposed to be the best day of my life. My college graduation. 4 years of working 2 part-time jobs, of all-night study sessions, of living on instant noodles and cheap coffee. I did it. I was the first person in my entire immediate family to graduate from college. And as I sat there, sweating in my black cap and gown, I had one single thought on repeat. He's going to show up. He promised he would. I kept searching the crowd. My mom was there, of course, crying and waving a little sign she made. My aunt was next to her, cheering so loud I could almost hear her from the field. But next to them, there was an empty chair. A single plastic empty blue chair. The seat I had saved for my dad. The procession started. The music got loud. I told myself he was just stuck in traffic. He had to be stuck in traffic. But the dread in my stomach felt like a cold, heavy stone. He wasn't just late, was he? You have to understand, my parents' divorce 2 years ago was messy. Really messy. My dad got a new girlfriend, Tiffany, who was barely older than me. And suddenly, it felt like I wasn't his priority anymore. We fought about it. But I gave him one rule. Just one. I don't care about anything else, I told him over the phone. I don't care if you bring her. Just please be at my graduation. And he looked me in the eyes on our last video call and said, "Mary, I promise. I wouldn't miss it for the world." He promised. He broke that promise in the worst way possible. But him skipping my graduation, that wasn't even the shocking part. What he did next, what he was saying to me on the phone right now, is the part you won't believe. It's a story that's so wild, so unbelievable. It changed my entire life and my view of family forever. You're going to want to hear this. If you think this sounds crazy, stick with me because the story only gets worse from here. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. I walked across that stage. Got my diploma. I smiled for the pictures, but it felt fake. My face felt like a plastic mask I couldn't take off. My mom could tell I was heartbroken, but she tried to make the day special. Later that night, at the little dinner she planned, my phone buzzed. It was a text. From my dad. My heart jumped. Maybe it was an apology. An emergency. Opened it. It wasn't an apology. It was a picture. Him and Tiffany. On a beach. They were tanned and holding bright pink drinks with little umbrellas. "Congrats, kiddo," the text read. I just stared at the picture. He looked so happy. He was smiling wider than I'd seen him smile in years. "Congrats, kiddo." I reread the words over and over. Then I saw the rest of the message. "Sorry to miss it. Tiff's birthday trip to Cabo was non-refundable. We'll celebrate when I'm back." Non-refundable. His girlfriend's birthday trip was more important than his daughter's graduation. My mom saw the look on my face and just grabbed my hand. I didn't cry. I just went numb. How could a father do that? I thought that was the ultimate betrayal. I was so wrong. Which brings me back to this moment. Back to my apartment surrounded by boxes. Back to this phone call 1 week after he chose Cabo over me. I hadn't even spoken to him since that text. I just ignored his calls. But today he called again and I thought maybe he was finally calling to say he was sorry. I thought he was calling to apologize for breaking my heart. I was so stupid. He didn't sound sorry at all. He sounded like he was calling about a business deal. "Mary, are you listening?" his voice said, and he sounded annoyed. "I said I was running the numbers." I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. "Running what numbers, Dad?" The numbers, Mary. The tuition. Now that you've graduated, you're officially an adult. My financial obligation is over. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what he was talking about. Obligation. What do you want, Dad? Yes. And then he said it. The words that made my entire world stop cold. He cleared his throat. Well, I've been thinking. That was a lot of money I put out for your college. And now that you're going to be making a good salary, it's time for you to pay me back. I dropped the phone. Clattered to the floor. Pay him back. Pay him back for what? I picked it up, my hand shaking so hard I could barely hold it. Pay you back. I stammered. Dad, what are you talking about? He laughed like I was being silly. The $50,000 I paid for your tuition, of course. I've worked out a payment plan. I'll need the first $500 by the 1st of next month. Pay me back. Those two words just hung in the air, spinning around my head. My whole apartment, filled with boxes and tape, felt like it was tilting. I couldn't breathe. My dad was on the other end of the line, waiting for an answer, probably tapping his foot. But my mind didn't give him one. Instead it just snapped. Snapped right back in time. Back to 6 weeks earlier. Back to the hardest, most tired month of my life, when the only thing I cared about was making him proud. It's funny how your brain tries to protect you. It was like my mind was screaming. Look how hard you worked. This can't be real. You have to understand, this wasn't just any graduation. In my family, nobody went to college. Nobody. My mom worked at a diner and my dad, well, he worked in construction before he changed. This degree wasn't just for me. It was for us. It was supposed to be the magical key that unlocked a new life. It was proof that a brunette could do something different, something more. I felt like I was carrying my mom's hopes, my aunt's hopes, and especially my dad's hopes on my shoulders. I couldn't let them down. I really couldn't let him down. That last semester was a nightmare. I mean, a real wake-up screaming kind of nightmare. I was taking 18 credits, which is like 5 huge classes. I was also working 20 hours a week at the campus library, just to pay my rent and buy food. My job was simple. I'd sit at the front desk, check books in, check them out, and in between, I'd try to write my giant 20-page final paper on my old slow laptop. My brain was split into 3 pieces. Mary the student, Mary the employee, and Mary the daughter, who was trying to plan a graduation party for a family that wasn't even speaking to each other. I remember one night I was at the library desk. It was 1 a.m. The whole building was silent except for the humming lights. My eyes were burning, and I was on my 4th cup of coffee that tasted like burnt dirt. My phone buzzed. It was my mom. "Have you talked to your father about his flight?" she texted. My stomach did a little flip. I told her I'd call him right then. I stepped into the quiet, cold hallway and dialed. He picked up on the 4th ring. "Hey, kiddo, what's up? Kinda busy." He sounded distant. I didn't know it yet, but busy had a name. And her name was Tiffany. Tiffany. Even her name sounds like sparkles and trouble. My dad met her about a year after the divorce and just lost his mind. He was 48, she was 24. Suddenly he was wearing tight t-shirts, getting his hair frosted, and talking about finding his vibe. It was so embarrassing. But the worst part, she hated me. I'm not being dramatic. She really hated me. I think she saw me as a reminder that he was, well, old. That he had a whole other life and a whole grown-up daughter before her. And she made it her mission to cut me out of that new life, one little slice at a time. But I didn't care about Tiffany. I told myself I didn't. He could date a teenager if he wanted, and he basically was. But this one day, this one single day was different. It was the finish line. I had so many pictures in my head of what that day would look like. I pictured finding my dad in the crowd, seeing him stand up and cheer. I imagined him giving me a big hug, smelling like his old aftershave and saying, "That's my girl, Mary. I knew you could do it." That one mental picture. That was the gas in my tank. It's what kept me going when I wanted to quit. I finished my final paper at 4 a.m., just 2 days before it was due. I hadn't slept in 36 hours. I walked out of the library just as the sun was starting to come up, and the birds were starting to sing. The whole campus was quiet and pink. I remember I just sat down on a stone bench and cried. I wasn't even sad. I was just empty. I had given every single thing. Every piece of me was used up. I had nothing left. I sent a text to my dad, my fingers clumsy. Just finished my last paper ever. So tired. Can't wait to see you next month. I must have fallen asleep right there on the bench, because I woke up an hour later when a jogger ran past. My neck was stiff and my phone was at 2% battery. I saw my dad had texted back. My heart did a little hopeful flip. Opened it. It wasn't, "I'm so proud of you." It wasn't, "I can't wait." It was just, "Sounds tough, kid. We need to talk about the graduation plans soon. It's complicated." Complicated. What was complicated? You buy a plane ticket. You show up. How hard could that be? A new kind of worry, a cold and sharp one, started to creep in. See, here's the part that makes this whole thing even crazier. The part that makes my head want to explode. My dad offered to pay for half my college. My mom took out loans for her half, and I worked for my living expenses. But my dad, he insisted on paying his part. It was right after the divorce. I think he felt guilty. He sat me down and said, "Mary, I'm setting up a college fund. This is my gift to you. I don't want you to worry about a thing." It was his gift. His exact words. Not a loan. Not an investment. A gift. And now my mind snapped back to the present. Back to my hot, stuffy apartment and the smell of cardboard boxes. Back to my dad's voice on the phone, still waiting, buzzing like an angry bee. "Mary, did you hear me? $500. By the first." All that work. All those sleepless nights. The empty chair. The picture from Cabo. And now this. He wasn't just taking away my graduation day. He was trying to take away the degree itself. He was trying to put a price tag on my entire future. And I finally found my voice. "Pay me back." My hand was clamped on the phone, my knuckles white. "Dad, are you serious?" I finally managed to whisper. My voice sounded tiny, like it was coming from a mouse. "Of course I'm serious, Mary," he snapped back, and he sounded annoyed. Like I was the one being crazy. "I have a new life to think about. Tiffany and I are looking at houses." Tiffany. Course. It always came back to her. My mind just snapped backward like a rubber band, pulling me away from the boxes and the anger, all the way back to 2 years ago. The day my family officially cracked right down the middle. The divorce was awful. Just awful. I remember sitting in a stuffy lawyer's office that smelled like old paper and fake lemon cleaner. My mom was crying so hard she couldn't hold the pen to sign the papers. My dad just stared at a spot on the wall. His face made of stone. I was 20 years old, but I felt like I was 5, sitting between two fighting giants who wouldn't look at each other. After it was all over, my mom drove away in her old rattling car. My dad took me to the diner down the street. Felt so strange, just the two of us. He slid into the red vinyl booth and just stirred his coffee for a long time. Finally he looked up at me. His eyes were sad. "Mary," he said, "I know this is hard. Your mom and we just don't work anymore." He looked like my dad then. "But I want you to know I'm still your dad. I'm always going to be your dad." He reached across the table and put his big, rough hand on mine. "And I'm going to pay for your college. My half. I'm setting it up this week. It's a gift, Mary. I want you to have the start I never had. Don't you ever worry about that money. You just study hard." A gift. That's the word he used. I remember it perfectly. And now, the voice on the phone was the same man, but it was like an alien was wearing his skin. "Dad, you said it was a gift," I whispered, my throat tight. "I heard you. In the diner. You said gift. There was a pause. Cold, empty pause. "Don't be difficult, Mary. Things change." And then I heard it. Her voice in the background. Tiffany. She was laughing at something, a high, tinkling sound. She was the change. She was the reason this was happening. I knew it. But I still couldn't understand. What did I ever do to her? She hated me. From the very first day she met me. I'm not being dramatic. I think she hated that I existed. She hated that I was a reminder that my dad had a whole life before her. I'll never forget my 21st birthday. I came home for the weekend, and Dad tried to take us both to a fancy dinner. I wore a nice blue dress. Tiffany showed up in a tiny leather skirt and a top that was basically sparkles held together with string. She pouted the entire time. Every time Dad asked me about school, she'd jump in. "Ugh, college," she'd say, rolling her eyes. "I just don't see the point. I make more money than most grads just by posting on Instagram." After that night, I stopped coming home as much. Our phone calls got shorter. Felt like Tiffany was always there, listening. I'd call to talk to my dad and she'd grab the phone. "Hi, Mary. Your dad's busy. We're about to go wine tasting. Bye." Blick. It was like she was building a giant wall around him, brick by brick. And I was on the outside in the cold. I was the old boring life. She was the new fun shiny life. And I was terrified. I was terrified I was losing him for good. That fear. It was worse than any final exam. It was worse than being broke and eating ramen for a week straight. The thought of my dad just disappearing from my life. It was a cold, hollow feeling in my chest. So I decided I had to do something. I had to draw a line in the sand. I had to ask for one thing. One single thing that was just for us. One thing that Tiffany couldn't poison or take away. I called him about 3 months before graduation. My heart was hammering so hard I could barely hear. This was it. "Hey Dad," I said, trying to make my voice sound light and easy. "So, the graduation date is set. It's May 15th. I heard him sigh on the other end. "Oh wow. That's coming up fast," he said. He sounded distracted. I could hear a football game on TV in the background. "Dad, listen," I said, and my voice cracked. Hated it. "I need to ask you something. It's really, really important." TV sound went quiet. "What is it, kiddo?" I squeezed my eyes shut and just said it. "I don't care if you bring Tiffany. I don't care about a party. I don't need a present. I need you to be there. I need to look out and see you. That's all I want. Please." There was a long, long silence. Felt like an hour. I thought he was going to make an excuse. I thought he was going to say, "Well, Tiffany and I were planning." But he didn't. His voice came back and it was soft. It was the voice I remembered from when I was little. "Mary," he said. "Of course I'll be there. Course. Promise. I'm so proud of you. I wouldn't miss it for the world." I just burst into tears. I was so relieved, I felt stupid for ever doubting him. Thank you, Dad. I love you. I love you too, kiddo," he said. "I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world." That's what he said. I held on to that promise like it was a shield. I used it to get through my last set of finals. I whispered it to myself when I was so tired I wanted to quit. He'll be there. He promised. But he wasn't. He was on a beach. And now, on the phone, he wasn't just a liar. He was something else. Something worse. "Dad," I said, and my voice was finally steady. It was cold. "You can't do this." He actually laughed. "Watch me, Mary. You're an adult now. Welcome to the real world." And then he said the one thing that made my blood freeze. "Besides, Tiffany thinks it's a great idea. She's the one who looked up the numbers." Tiffany's idea. I said the name out loud, just a whisper. Of course it was. It felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, and all the air whooshed out of me. This woman, this girl. She had hated me from day one. She hated that I was proof my dad had a life before her. And now she'd found the perfect way to hurt me. To turn my biggest accomplishment into a weapon against me. "Dad, you can't be serious," I pleaded. "You're letting her make you do this." I could hear him sigh, a long, tired sound. Mary, it's not like that. It's just, things are expensive. My mind just couldn't stay on the phone. It was too much. It drifted back again to just 3 weeks before graduation. To the first real crack in his promise. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I had just walked out of my very last exam, a brutal 3-hour history final. I walked out into the bright sunshine and felt like I was floating. I was done. I had finished. I called my mom first and she just screamed into the phone. She was so happy. Then I called my dad. Dad, I'm done. I'm officially finished. Now all that's left is to graduate. I was so happy I was practically bouncing. That's great, kiddo, he said. But his voice was flat. It was like a gray, cloudy day. Listen, about that weekend. I need to check some things. Tiffany might have a work thing. A work thing. My good mood vanished like a puff of smoke. A work thing. I repeated. Dad, this is my graduation. What does Tiffany's work have to do with anything? Well, he stammered, and I could hear him shifting the phone. It's this conference. For her influencing. With her Instagram. Might be that same weekend. We're not sure. A tiny, cold spike of fear poked my heart. But, you promised, I said, my voice small. You promised you'd be there. I know, he said way too quickly. And I'm going to try. But these things are important for her career. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. He hung up before I could say anything else. He'll figure it out. For the next week, I'll figure it out was all I got. Every time I called it was a new excuse. I'm looking at flights, they're just so expensive right now. Or, Tiffany is still waiting to hear back from the brand. I tried to focus on packing up my dorm room, on saying goodbye to my friends. But there was this itch in the back of my brain. This little voice that kept whispering, he's not coming. He's not coming. I told myself I was just being crazy. He was my dad. He promised. He wouldn't break a promise like that. Not this promise. But I was so scared. I was so scared he would. 2 weeks to go. My mom was trying to make a reservation for a little graduation dinner. She needed a final head count. I sent him a text. Hey Dad, Mom needs to know for the restaurant. Are you coming? And is Tiffany coming too? Just need a yes or no so she can book the table. I stared at my phone, my thumb hovering over the screen. I watched the message turn from sent to delivered. And then, the 2 little blue check marks popped up. Read. He saw it. He was looking right at it. Waited. 1 minute. 10 minutes. An hour. The whole night. Nothing. He left me on read. The next day I couldn't take it anymore. Called him. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. My hands were shaking. I was so angry, but mostly I was just sad. I was desperate. I did something I promised myself I would never do. I called Tiffany. I hated calling her. Her number wasn't even saved in my phone. She answered on the first ring, her voice like fake sugar. Oh, hi, Mary. What's up? It's so random you're calling. Where is my dad? I demanded. Why isn't he answering me? She laughed. A light, airy laugh that made my skin crawl. Oh, he's just so busy, sweetie. We have big plans. Big plans. Yes. My blood felt like it was turning to ice. What big plans? The only plan is my graduation in 2 weeks. Oh, right, that, she said like she'd just remembered. Yeah, we're just not sure if we can make it. It's just so far to travel for like a 2-hour ceremony, It's a huge expense. I was dizzy. Not sure. He promised me. He promised. Yeah, well, she said, and her voice lost its sugary coating. It was hard and mean now. People break promises, Mary. Welcome to the real world. Your dad has a new life now. You should probably get used to it. Blick. She hung up on me. I just stood there in my messy room, surrounded by empty boxes, staring at my phone. Welcome to the real world. I fell onto my bed and just broke. I cried so hard my chest ached. I was crying for my graduation, for my dad, for the fact that this stranger had taken him from me. After an hour, I wiped my face. I was done crying. I was just angry. I did the only thing I could think of. I sent my dad one last text. It was a picture of me and him from when I was 10, at my 5th grade moving up ceremony. I was holding a little certificate, and he was holding me on his shoulders. He looked so happy, so proud. I texted the photo with just one sentence. She might not think it's important, but I know you do. Please, Dad, don't do this to me. You promised. I sent it and my heart was just empty. I was sure he wouldn't answer. I expected to be left on read again. But 5 minutes later my phone buzzed. It was him. My heart leaped into my throat. Opened it. It was just 3 words. I'll be there. I burst into tears all over again, but this time they were happy tears. I felt so silly for doubting him. He was coming. Tiffany hadn't won. He was still my dad. Oh, I was so stupid. I was so naive. I held on to that text like it was a winning lottery ticket. I'll be there. I screenshotted it. I read it over and over. I didn't know that I'll be there was just a different kind of lie. It was just a way to shut me up. To get me off his back so he could pack his bags. And now, on the phone, hearing his voice demand $50,000, I finally understood. He was already planning to go to Cabo when he sent me that text. He let me believe he was coming, all while he was booking his trip with her. Dad, I said, and my voice was shaking, not with sadness, but with a new kind of rage I had never felt before. You lied to me. You let me sit in that stadium, knowing you weren't coming. I heard him huff, an impatient sound. Oh, grow up, Mary. I sent you a text, didn't I? You got the degree, so what's the big deal? You're being dramatic. And that was when I finally snapped. The big deal, Dad. I screamed into the phone. The big deal is that my graduation day was the worst day of my life. And you weren't even there to see it. Graduation day. The morning air was electric. You could almost feel the excitement buzzing all over campus. My roommate and I were a mess, trying to fix our caps, giggling and taking a million pictures. I looked at myself in the mirror. Mary Burnett, college graduate, sounded so grown up. I was so nervous I thought I was going to be sick, but it was a good sick. An excited sick. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a just landed. Or on my way. Text from my dad. Nothing. But it didn't matter. I had his last message saved. I'll be there. That's all I needed. My mom and aunt were driving in together and already had their tickets. I had given my dad his ticket weeks ago in the mail. It's section 104, row G, seat 12, I'd told him. Right near the aisle so you can see me walk past. Got it, kiddo, he'd said. I fixed my tassel for the 100th time, my heart just pounding. This was it. This was the moment. All that work, all those sleepless nights, it was all for this day. I wasn't just walking for me. I was walking for my family. I was walking to prove we could do it. And I was walking to see my dad's proud smile. We all lined up in the big assembly hall. It was a sea of black robes and smiling, terrified faces. The music started, that famous graduation song. Pomp and circumstance. My stomach did a backflip. We started the long, slow walk into the giant stadium. It was huge. There were thousands of people, like a giant ocean of parents and friends, all cheering and screaming. The noise hit us like a wave. I was walking with my friends, all of us trying not to trip over our gowns, all of us scanning the crowd, looking for our people. Found my section. Section 104. My eyes darted around, looking for my mom's bright pink shirt. And then I saw her. She was already crying, of course. My aunt was next to her, waving a huge sign she'd made that said, "Go Mary. That's our girl." I burst out laughing and waved back with both hands. My heart felt so full it could pop. I was so happy, so proud. I looked right next to my mom at row G, seat 12. I looked for my dad. I looked for his face. And I saw it. A seat. A single blue plastic empty seat. My smile just froze. It felt like my face was made of ice. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. Whoa. No, he's just late. That's all. Traffic. Traffic from the airport is always a nightmare. Course. He's probably stuck in a cab right now, yelling at the driver. He's just parking. Parking lot is miles away. He's running. He'll be here. He has to be here. He promised. He promised me. He wouldn't break this promise. He wouldn't. I kept walking, but I wasn't smiling anymore. I just kept staring at that empty blue chair. We all found our seats on the field. It was so hot. The sun was beating down, and my black gown felt like a fuzzy winter blanket. I fanned myself with the program, but I was sweating from fear, not from the heat. I kept twisting in my seat, looking back at section 104. The seat was still empty. My mom saw me looking. She gave me a little sad smile. A don't worry smile. But her eyes looked worried too. She knew him. She knew what he was like now. But I just shook my head. Whoa. He's coming. He's coming. I just had to believe it. The speeches started. The president of the university. The valedictorian, who was so smart she sounded like she was speaking another language. It was all just noise. Blah 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 future. Blah 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 dreams. I couldn't focus. I couldn't listen. My entire being was focused on that one empty seat. Kept thinking I saw him. A tall man walking down the aisle. Nope, not him. A guy with dark hair. Nope, wrong person. Every single person who walked past that section made my heart jump into my throat, and every time it wasn't him, it sank back down a little heavier each time. I secretly pulled out my phone under my gown. No missed calls. No text. I typed a message so fast my thumbs fumbled. Hey, are you here? The ceremony started. I'm on the field. I hit send. I stared at it. Delivered. Just delivered. Not read. My heart hammered. Why wasn't it read? Was his phone off? Was he on a plane? No, he should have landed hours ago. What is going on? I could feel a hot, prickly feeling behind my eyes. I was not going to cry. I was not going to let this ruin my day. He was just late. That's all. They started calling the names. The College of Arts and Sciences. A loud voice boomed over the speakers. My heart stopped. That was my college. We were first. Please line up, the ushers told us. We all stood up, a big wave of black robes, and started shuffling toward the stage. This was it. This was the moment. I was going to walk across that stage. I looked back at section 104. One last desperate time. My mom was standing. My aunt was standing. And next to them was that empty blue plastic chair. He wasn't late. He wasn't stuck in traffic. He wasn't running from the parking lot. He wasn't here. He wasn't coming. The realization hit me like a physical thing, like someone had thrown a brick at my chest. He wasn't coming. He chose something else. Over me. Over this. Over his one promise. I was in line, moving forward like a zombie. I could hear the names being called. Sarah Anderson. John Baker. David Chen. I was getting closer. And I had this one awful thought. I have to walk across that stage. I have to smile for the camera. I have to pretend this is the best day of my life. And he's not even here to see it. Mary Burnett. The giant speaker boomed my name. It echoed all over the stadium. Mary Burnett. Didn't even sound like me. Sounded like they were calling some other girl. Some happy girl whose dad was in the crowd, cheering his head off. My friend in front of me gave me a little push. Mary, go. That's you. I stumbled forward. My feet felt like they were stuck in wet cement. I was in a long line moving toward the stage, but I felt completely and totally alone. Had to walk. I had to smile. But all I wanted to do was curl up under the plastic chair and disappear. The walk up the little ramp to the stage felt like climbing a mountain. Every single eye in that stadium was on me. Or at least it felt like it. I kept my eyes glued to the back of the student in front of me. Don't look up. Don't look at section 104. Don't look at that empty blue chair. But it was like a magnet. I couldn't help it. My eyes flicked over. Just for a second. It was still empty. A giant, gaping hole in the middle of my family. A hole shaped exactly like my dad. Felt so stupid. So humiliated. He had lied to me. In front of everyone. I reached the middle of the stage. The president of the university, a man I'd never met, was standing there with a big, fake smile. He grabbed my hand and shook it. "Congratulations, Mary," he said. A bright light flashed in my face. The photographer. I tried to smile. I really tried. But it felt wrong. Felt like my face was cracking. It was a mask. A smiling, happy mask, but underneath I was just crumbling. He handed me the diploma cover. It was just an empty red folder. Felt just as empty as I did. I walked down the other side of the stage, my hand clutching that empty red folder. My knees were shaking so hard I was terrified I was going to fall. I made it back to my row and just collapsed into my seat. That was it. 4 years of work, all for that 30-second walk. And he missed it. He missed the whole thing. I looked at the program in my lap. We were only on the letter C. There were hundreds, maybe thousands more names to call. I was trapped. I had to sit here in the hot sun 4 hours and pretend to be happy, while my heart was just breaking. I just sat there. The world turned into a blurry mix of noise and black robes. The announcer's voice became a long, boring drone. David Miller. Sarah Morris. Kevin Patel. I wasn't angry anymore. That came later. I was just hollow. Big, empty feeling. Why? Why would he promise? Why would he text, "I'll be there"? It would have hurt less if he'd just told me the truth. If he'd just said, "Sorry, Mary, my girlfriend's birthday is more important." The lie. The lie was what was killing me. Why let me hope? What kind of person does that? Finally, after what felt like 100 years, the last name was called. The president got back up and said some more blah 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 words. And then he shouted, "Congratulations, class of 2024. Everyone around me jumped to their feet. They were screaming, cheering, hugging. People started throwing their caps in the air. Cap hit me in the side of the head. I didn't even notice. I just stood up like a robot. I was surrounded by thousands of happy, screaming people, and I had never ever felt so alone in my entire life. My perfect day. It was ruined. It was chaos. Everyone was trying to find their families. I was just pushed along by the crowd like a leaf in a river. I saw a flash of pink. "Hey, Mom." She ran right to me and grabbed me in the tightest hug I've ever had. "Mary, you did it. You did it. I'm so proud of you, baby." She sobbed into my shoulder. I just hugged her back, my face buried in her hair. I couldn't speak. I couldn't cry. I was just empty. She pulled back and looked at my face. Her smile faded. "Oh, honey," she whispered. He never showed, did he?" I just shook my head. "He promised," I whispered, and my voice finally cracked. "He promised me, Mom." My aunt came up and hugged me too. "He's a fool, Mary," she said, and she sounded angry. "A complete and total fool. Don't you let him take this day from you." But it was too late. He already had. I felt like a little kid again, the one who waited by the window for her dad to pick her up, only to realize he wasn't coming. Only this time. It was so much worse. But I still didn't know why. I still thought it had to be an emergency. Car crash. Something awful. I know it sounds crazy, but a part of me was still hoping. Maybe his phone died. Maybe he got in an accident. As awful as that sounds, it was better than the alternative. It was better than him just choosing not to come. "Maybe we should call the police," I asked my mom, my voice small. "Or the hospitals." My mom just looked at me with the saddest eyes I've ever seen. "Honey," she said gently, I don't think we need to call the hospitals. But how do you know? Pleaded. How do you know he didn't just get stuck? And then my phone buzzed in my hand. We were standing outside the stadium. The crowd was finally thinning out. My mom had her arm around me, and we were about to walk to her car for the dinner she'd planned. And my phone buzzed. My heart stopped. I ripped it out of my pocket so fast I almost dropped it. It was a text message. From Dad. My hands were shaking. See, I said to my mom, my voice full of wild, stupid hope. See, he's okay. It was just an emergency. I opened the text, bracing myself for the apology. But it wasn't an apology. It wasn't an explanation. It was a picture. My heart was doing a weird, fluttery thing. Oh, it was stupid, but it was there. See, Mom. He's okay, said my voice all shaky. I looked down at the bright screen. But it wasn't a text. It was a picture. For a second my brain just didn't understand. It wasn't a car crash. It wasn't a hospital. It was a beach. My dad. He was grinning, holding up a bright pink drink with a little umbrella in it. He was wearing sunglasses and a stupid Hawaiian shirt. And next to him, practically wrapped around him, was Tiffany. She was in a tiny bikini, tanned, and smiling a huge fake smile at the camera. My eyes just stared. I couldn't look away. I was standing there in my hot, sweaty graduation gown, my hair a mess from the cap, my heart broken into a million pieces. And he was on a beach. He was smiling. He looked so happy. Happier than I'd seen him in years. The background wasn't a hospital. It was bright blue water and white sand. He wasn't in a car wreck. He was on a fancy beach chair. Then I saw the text that came with a picture. My fingers were shaking as I read it. Congrats, kiddo. Sorry to miss it. Tiff's birthday trip to Cabo was non-refundable. We'll celebrate when I'm back. Love ya. Non-refundable. That's the word that just echoed in my head. Tiff's birthday trip. He chose a birthday party. He chose a vacation. He chose her. Over me. Over his one and only daughter's college graduation. Over his promise. The last little bit of hope inside me just poof. It was gone. It didn't just die. It was murdered. And all that was left was this cold, awful, empty feeling. I didn't cry. Just stood there. I felt my mom take the phone from my hand. I heard her make a little noise, a gasp. That, she whispered. My aunt looked at it and her face turned a dark, angry red. I'm going to kill him, she hissed. The walk to the car was silent. I felt like I was floating outside my body. I was still wearing my cap and gown. Felt so stupid. I felt like a little kid in a costume. I got in the back seat of my mom's car and just stared out the window. The world was still happening. Cars were driving by. People were laughing on the sidewalk. Didn't they know? Didn't they know what just happened? My mom and aunt were talking in the front seat, their voices low and angry. How could he? And to send a picture. That girl is poison. I just tuned it all out. I clutched the empty red diploma folder in my lap. Felt like a joke. We got to the little Italian restaurant my mom had picked. It was my favorite. As we walked in, I saw it. She had brought balloons. There was a big, shiny silver balloon that said, "Congrats," and another one that said, "Grad." They were tied to our table. Just up. The nice, friendly restaurant, the smell of garlic, the smiling waiter coming to greet us. It all felt like a slap in the face. Party. She had planned a party. And I just wanted to go to bed and never wake up. We sat down. The waiter, a nice older man, came over. Well, who's the graduate?" he asked, beaming at me. I just stared at him. I couldn't find my voice. My mom answered for me. "My daughter Mary," she said, and her voice was so tight, like she was trying not to cry. "She just graduated from the university." "How wonderful," the waiter said. "Congratulations." He looked at the table. My mom had made the reservation for 4. Just in case. Just in case he showed up. There was an empty seat across from me. An empty plate. An empty set of silverware. Just waiting. For someone who was on a beach. I just pushed my food around. Pasta. My favorite. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even swallow. It felt like I had a giant rock in my throat. My mom and my aunt tried. They really did. Remember that time in your first year when you called us, and you'd accidentally dyed all your laundry pink? My aunt said, trying to make me laugh. I just gave her a little watery smile. All I could see was that picture. Him and Tiffany smiling. Non-refundable. He had weeks to tell me. He knew he wasn't coming when he sent that last, "I'll be there" text. Lie. That's what hurt the most. My aunt was getting angrier and angrier. "He's a coward, Mary," she said, stabbing her salad. "A spineless, selfish coward. That woman. She's not a girlfriend, she's a parasite. She's got her claws in him so deep he can't even see his own daughter." My mom just looked sad. "He wasn't always like this," she said softly. He got lost." "Lost?" My aunt scoffed. "He's not lost, he's gone. And you know what, Mary? You're better off." But I didn't feel better off. I just felt thrown away. Like a piece of trash. My phone buzzed again. It was on the table, face up. Flinched. I thought it was him again. Maybe this time it was an apology. Maybe he'd realized what he'd done. My mom looked at the screen. "Who is that?" she asked. It was an unknown number. A number I didn't have saved in my phone. My stomach turned to ice. I knew. I knew who it was. "It's her," I whispered. "It's Tiffany." My mom's eyes went wide. "Don't open it, Mary. Don't. Just block her." But I couldn't. It was like a car crash. Had to look. My hands were shaking again. Picked up the phone. I unlocked it. I opened the message. It was another picture. This one wasn't of her and my dad. It was just her. Selfie. She was in her bikini, lying on the beach chair, holding a glass of champagne right up to the camera. She was wearing my dad's sunglasses and had a big, stupid, kissy face smile. It was just mean. Then I saw the little line of text underneath the picture. It was just 2 words and an emoji. It said, "Oops. Oops." My mom took the phone from my hand and just stared at the picture of Tiffany. She's taunting you," my aunt hissed, her voice shaking with anger. "That's not an oops. That's a victory lap." I turned my phone off. I couldn't look at it anymore. I couldn't look at the balloons. I couldn't look at that empty chair. The rest of the dinner was a fog. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. Just shut down. I was a robot in a black gown. I went back to my dorm, crawled into bed, and just existed. My perfect day. My big moment. It was all just a pile of ashes. I spent the next week in a total daze. I didn't answer his calls. I didn't answer his texts, which were all cheerful. "Hope you're good, kiddo" messages. Like nothing had happened. Like he'd just missed a dentist appointment, not my graduation. I blocked Tiffany's number. I just focused on packing. Box after box. My sweaters. My books. My old photos. My entire 4 years of college, being taped up and stacked against the wall. I was moving to a new city for my new job. And I had never, ever been so ready to leave a place in my life. I was taping up the very last box. The apartment was hot and echoey. My whole life was in a pile by the door. And my phone rang. I looked at the screen. "Dad!" My heart did a stupid, painful thud. A whole week had passed. He was back from Cabo. The sun and the margaritas were gone. Maybe the real dad was back. Maybe he was finally calling to say the words I needed to hear. "Mary, I am so sorry. Messed up. I was a fool. That's all I wanted. I'm sorry." My hand was shaking. I swiped the green button. "Hello," said. My voice was small. "Hey, kiddo. How's the packing going?" he said. His voice was chipper. He was happy. He sounded like he was calling to ask about the weather. He sounded like nothing was wrong. My brain just stalled. I couldn't make the two things fit. The dad on the beach, the empty chair, and this happy voice. Packings. Fine, I finally managed to say. Dad. Why are you calling? I was holding my breath. Say it. Say you're sorry. Please just say you're sorry. Well, I was just running some numbers, he said, and I could hear him shuffling papers. Running. Numbers. What numbers, Dad? The tuition numbers, of course, he said like it was obvious. I was talking it over with Tiff. Of course she was involved. And now that you've graduated, you're officially an adult. That means my financial obligation is over. Obligation. My stomach felt cold. Dad, you're not making any sense. What are you talking about? I sank down onto a cardboard box. It's simple, Mary, he said. Now that you've got your degree and you're about to start your big fancy new job, it's time for you to start paying me back. I couldn't hear. My ears were full of static. Pay you back, I whispered. Pay you back for what? This was a joke. A mean, twisted, horrible joke. Had to be. The $50,000, Mary, he said. And he laughed. He actually let out a little chuckle like I was the one being silly. The $50,000 I put out for your college. What did you think? That it was just a free ride? My hand went numb. The phone slipped out of my fingers and clattered onto the hardwood floor. I just stared at it, his tiny, tinny voice still talking from the speaker. Mary, you there? Did you drop the phone? I snatched it back up, my whole body shaking, but not from sadness. It was something new, something hot. You told me it was a gift, he yelled. I was there. You were there. In the diner after the divorce. You looked me right in my face and you said, "This is my gift to you." I was crying now, but they were hot, angry tears. I remember every word, Dad. You promised. He just forgot, right? He had to have forgotten. There was a long, cold silence on the other end. Not a "you're right, I'm sorry" silence. It was an annoyed silence. Don't be difficult, Mary, he said, and his voice was hard now. Things change. Gift was, a word. I was trying to make you feel better. But it was an investment. And now my investment has graduated. So it's time for me to get a return on it. An investment. Like I was a piece of property. Like I was a stock he'd bought. I can't breathe, I stammered. You missed my graduation for a vacation and now you're billing me for it? Oh, grow up, he snapped. It was just a ceremony. I paid for the education, that's the part that matters. And frankly, I need that money now. Tiffany and I are looking at houses, and I need my money back for a down payment. A down payment. For her house. He was taking my education. The gift he'd given me. And he was trying to turn it into a house for her. I was so stunned I couldn't even speak. So, I've worked out a payment plan. He just kept talking. It's very reasonable. I'll need the first $500 by the 1st of next month. I'll text you my bank details. You'll text me your bank details. I was just repeating his words. I was numb. He had missed the most important day of my life. He had laughed about it. And now he was asking me to pay for his new life with a woman who hated me. I was sitting on a box, surrounded by my entire life. And I realized I didn't have a dad anymore. This was her idea, wasn't it? I whispered. That oops text. This whole thing. She planned this. I heard a noise in the background. She was right there. And she was talking. I heard her voice clear as day. Just tell her, honey, she cooed. Tell her what we decided about the interest. Interest. The word just fell out of my mouth. It was a stupid, empty sound. Interest. I heard her laugh in the background, a high, sharp, nasty little sound. He's not a bank, I whispered, my brain just short-circuiting. My dad cleared his throat, and he sounded all businesslike. Now, Mary, don't overreact. Tiff's right. It's only fair. We're thinking a simple 5%. Just to make it official. 5%. He wanted 5% interest. On a gift. On the money he gave me when he promised he'd always be my dad. All the sadness from my graduation. All the humiliation from that empty chair. All the hurt from the Cabo picture. It just vanished. Turned to ice. And it was sharp. Suddenly I wasn't shaking anymore. My hand holding the phone was rock steady. The whole hot, messy apartment came back into focus. I wasn't a sad little girl crying on a box. I was just done. I think I even laughed. It was a weird, dry, scary sound that didn't even sound like me. Dad, I said, and my voice was so flat and cold it scared me. You're kidding me. I wasn't asking. I was telling him. You missed the most important day of my life. You chose her over me. You broke my heart. And now you're sending me a bill. With interest. I finally expected him to sound guilty. I expected him to finally hear how crazy he sounded and back down. But he didn't. He scoffed at me. He actually let out a puff of air like I was the one being ridiculous. Oh, don't be so dramatic, Mary. It was just a ceremony. A hat and a robe. Big deal. I paid for the education, that's the part that matters. You got the piece of paper, didn't you? He sounded so angry. Like I was the one who had done something wrong. You should be grateful, he spat. You're being a spoiled, ungrateful brat. Ungrateful. That was the word. Ungrateful. Me. The girl who worked 20 hours a week at the library. The girl who ate instant noodles for dinner 5 nights a week so I wouldn't have to ask him for extra money. The girl who just wanted her dad to be there. I was the ungrateful one. Not the man who was on a beach in Cabo during my graduation. Not the man demanding $50,000 with interest so he could buy his new girlfriend a house. The world just tilted. And for the first time I think I really saw him. He wasn't my dad. Not anymore. My dad was the man in that picture, the one holding me on his shoulders at my 5th grade ceremony, the one who looked so proud. That man was gone. This stranger on the phone. This was Tiffany's new toy. And he was weak. And he was pathetic. I took a deep, steady breath. You're right, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the air. You're absolutely right, Dad. I heard him huff like he'd won. Good. I'm glad you're finally seeing. No, I cut him off. You're right. The ceremony is over. And so are we. What did you just say? He snarled. We are over, I said, and I was shocked by how strong I sounded. You are never going to see a dime from me. Not $500. Not $5. Not 1 single cent. I stood up from the cardboard box. That money was a gift. You said it. Heard it. And a gift isn't something you can take back just because your new girlfriend wants a bigger kitchen. I could hear Tiffany start to yell in the background. Something high and screechy. You can't do that to him. You ungrateful. I'm not doing it to him, I said, my voice like ice. I'm doing it for me. I walked over to my apartment window and looked out. The city looked busy. People were living their lives. My new life was waiting for me right outside this window. You're making a huge mistake, Mary. My dad was yelling now. You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back. You need me. No, Dad, I said. I don't think. I think I just graduated for real. I looked at the phone at the screen that just said, Dad. You have a good life, I whispered. You and Tiffany. I really hope you enjoy that house. Mary, don't you hang up on me. I'm still your father. You owe me. You owe me that money. His voice was getting louder, higher. He was panicked. He wasn't my dad. He was just a bully. He was losing control. And he was losing his down payment. I just felt pity. He wasn't a monster. He was just a weak, sad man. And I was done. I was done being sad about him. I was done trying to earn his love. I was done being his investment. I looked at the little red end call button on my screen. I took a deep breath. And I pressed it. The silence in the apartment was loud. It was over. 22 years. My whole life. My whole dad. Ended with one tap of my thumb. I just stood there, staring at the phone in my hand. It immediately started ringing again. Dad flashed on the screen. Rang. And rang. And rang. I just watched it. Felt nothing. Then it stopped. A second later a text popped up. A bubble from him. You answer this phone right now, young lady. Then another. I'm not kidding, Mary. You will pay me back. Then a third one. We're calling a lawyer. Lawyer. My heart did a tiny scared jump. Could he actually sue me? Could he take me to court? All my cold, hard anger suddenly faded, and I was just scared. What had I just done? Had I just made a huge mistake? Had my degree. I had my new job starting in 2 weeks. But I had no money. I had $400 in my checking account. And he was angry. And he had Tiffany whispering in his ear. And they wanted their money. What was he going to do next? My phone was still buzzing. Text after text. Lawyer. Garnished wages. You'll be sorry. My blood went cold. A lawyer. Could he actually sue me? Could he ruin my new job before I even started? All my strength just melted away, and I was a scared 22-year-old again. I had $400. Head. Tiffany. And an angry, selfish new life. I did the only thing I could think of. Called my aunt. My hands were shaking so hard, I could barely press the number. She answered on the second ring like she was waiting. Mary. Are you okay? What did he do now? Just lost it. I told her everything. Phone call. The $50,000. Interest. The lawyer. I was sobbing, blubbering, making no sense. He's going to sue me, Auntie. He's going to ruin me. What do I do? I waited for her to say, "Oh, honey, that's awful." But she didn't. There was a long, cold, furious silence on the other end. And then she laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was a scary laugh. "Oh, that stupid, stupid man," she said. And then she said the words that saved my life. "Mary, honey, what's my job?" I sniffled. You're a lawyer." "I'm a damn good lawyer," she said. "And I'm a mean one. He's not going to do a thing. He can't sue you, baby," she explained, and her voice was so calm it made me calm. "A gift is a gift. It's legally called a donatio inter vivos. He has no case. He has no proof. He has nothing. He's just a big, loud bully in a tight t-shirt." She took a deep breath. "Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to stop crying. You're going to block his number. You're going to block Tiffany's number. And you are going to let me handle this." "Handle it how?" I whispered. "Oh," she said, "I'm going to write my brother a letter. On my official, scary-looking law firm letterhead. And I'm going to explain in very simple terms just how much trouble he could get in for harassment. Don't you worry about a thing." Hung up the phone. And for the first time in years, felt light, felt safe. I looked at my phone, still buzzing. I opened his contact. Dad. I stared at the name. Then I scrolled down. Block this caller. Pressed it. A little pop-up asked, "Are you sure?" I pressed block contact. He vanished. Then I did it for Tiffany. Block. Then I went on social media. Block, block, block. With every single tap, it felt like I was cutting a thick, heavy rope that had been wrapped around my neck for my entire life. And then silence. The buzzing stopped. He was gone. 2 days later, I packed my whole life into my little car. I put my empty red diploma folder on the passenger seat. I looked at my empty apartment. I took a deep breath. And I drove. I drove for 6 hours away from my old life, away from my college town, away from all that hurt. I drove toward my new city, my new job, my new life. The whole way I played my music loud and I didn't cry. Not one single tear. I wasn't sad. I was free. I started my new job the next Monday. I was so nervous. I was in a big new building with a new desk and new people. But it was mine. Oh, mine. I worked hard. Harder than I'd ever worked in my life. And 2 weeks later I got my first paycheck. Just stared at it. It wasn't a lot of money. But I had earned every single cent. I used it to pay my rent. I used it to buy groceries. Real groceries, not just instant noodles. I bought a new plant for my little apartment. And as I put that plant on my new windowsill, I realized. This was my graduation. This was the moment. Not the ceremony. Not the empty chair. Not the fake diploma folder. Standing in my own apartment that I paid for with my own job, that I got with my own degree. That was the real graduation. I had finally graduated. From him. I had graduated from needing his approval. I had graduated from waiting for him to be the dad he used to be. I finally understood. He didn't just miss my graduation. His final, awful, unbelievable act was my graduation. He taught me the most important lesson of all. I am on my own. And I am going to be okay. I still have that picture. The one of me and him when I was 10 on his shoulders. Keep it in a box. Makes me sad sometimes. I'm sad for that little girl. I'm sad that she lost her dad. But I'm not sad for me. Because I'm not that little girl anymore. I'm a woman. I'm strong. And I'm free. His last text to me, from a number I didn't recognize, came about a month later, after he got my aunt's letter. It was just 2 words. I'm sorry. I don't know if he was sorry for the money, or for missing the day, or for everything. And you know what? I don't care. Just deleted it. I didn't even reply. This whole thing. It hurt. It hurt worse than anything I've ever felt. But it set me free. And that's why I wanted to tell this story. My story. Because I know I'm not the only one. I know there's someone out there watching this who feels trapped. Someone who's waiting for a person to be who they used to be. Someone who is letting their worth be decided by someone else's approval. By a dad or a mom or a boyfriend or a girlfriend. By an empty chair at your big day. If my story, touched you or made you feel seen, please like this video. It lets me know that I'm not alone in this, and neither are you. And if you know anyone, who needs to hear that it's okay to walk away, that it's okay to choose yourself, please share this with them. And please hit that subscribe button. Because family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up. You guys. You're my family now. And I want to keep sharing. Now I have to ask you. What would you have done? Let me know in the comments.